All right, you'll have to excuse me. My appearance is somewhat awful today, and yes, even I have some vanity. I need to shave rather badly. I'm still waiting on a shipment from a particular company to send me some razors and some shaving cream. I have razors and just amount of the shaving uh, gel they provide that I like quite a bit, and I need a haircut horribly. As well as, lose like 70 pounds, but I tried. I've tried and tried. Anyway, but today I'm talking about games, but I'm also proposing a very bizarre theory that which uh, partly silly, partly serious, just because it amuses me. Much in the way some of the weirdness that Charles Fort collected, weirdness that one day at a time. And I want to talk about what is called the Mandela effect. Now, the Mandela effect is that many people believed Nelson Mandela died in prison for some reason. We don't know exactly how they put the memories of this event together. I have a friend who has a similar memory of Michael Douglas talking about his father, Kirk Douglas, passing away on television in tears. Again, a memory of an event that did not happen. Um, Excuse my guest authoress. She's a little loud mouth. Anyway, but this also goes to another Nelson Mandela effect, the Mandela effect, as this is called, is memories that people have of things that are incorrect for some reason. For example, I worked in a bookstore for many, many years, and I could swear up and down that the books written by the Berensteins were the Berensteins, Stein, not Stain. Now, I saw these books every day. I saw these books sold. I straightened their racks, and I could swear up and down by my life that it was Stein. But that's not what it really is. It's Stain. And it makes me think that at some point, uh, the Mandela effect got me. Some reason my memories put together a flawed collection of information that felt real to me and just ignored the truth. Even if I saw the truth every day, my brain didn't put it together that way. Now, this is where we get weird for just a little bit. And I'm about to start a Gamma World game. And this is Gamma World 4th edition, the pink covered 4th edition, not Gamma World for the Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, which is a big green box set. So, this is an old school game, and I play old school games quite often when I can, but I like new games too. But right now, I am proposing on this theory that actually ties into that Gamma World, that later Gamma World. And I will honestly tell people I'm not a fan of 4th edition D&D at all. However, I think the best iteration of it is in that little Gamma World rulebook that appeared. It's got crazy character creation. It's got, it's a big box set. It comes with hardcore tokens to use for miniatures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The failing of it were the cards, but it had a neat idea. Basically, the Hadron Collider did something weird to the universe. So reality keeps changing. It keeps altering itself. So this leads in back to the Mandela effect idea. Now, the Mandela effect is pretty much Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is that our memories are not remembering facts correctly. They're misconnecting little bits of other information that doesn't line up with the reality we live in. But, and again, as I said, this is a little bit silly, a little bit serious. The silly part is, what if, and this is just what if, and remember, I'm a theist, I believe in God, what if God, being infinite, created infinite universe? Now, that just imagining infinity is such a vast thing that none of us can get it right. It's so much bigger, so much wider, so much just vast than even a universe that is growing exponentially to infinity. That the idea that there are other realities entirely, there are also other universes that are also doing this, that are all out there, that all exist, parallel planes of existence, alternate dimensions, whatever term you use. So I've come up with something that I'm going to use specifically in superhero games and other games in which reality is flexible. And the theory behind this from me, and this is all my idea, it's a hypothesis, is that if you have an infinite creator and you have infinite universes, some of those universes may occasionally come close to one another. When they come close to one another, if their vibrations match, much in the same way that you can play a musical instrument in a room and a similar musical instrument that's got the same notes on it, wired for it, usually stringed, but not always. You can play a violin in a room with another violin, and sometimes that other violin will vibrate with almost the same notes. The strings will vibrate because of the sound that they are responding to. What if these alternate realities vibrated? And sometimes they vibrated just closely enough to our reality, because our reality is also vibrating, that they touched just for a split second, sort of like constructive interference in various forms of radio and radio waves and light waves and other things, where you have interference that magnifies an effect. In this case, the magnification effect I have called the Mandela effect variance, or the Mandela variance effect, depending on what way you want to use it. And what it is how far from our truth is this alternate universe. Now, it's close enough to our own universe that there are similarities, enough similarities that we cannot take for granted what is true and what is not when they touch. For example, there may be a universe in which Berenstain Bears are really Berenstein Bears. There may be a universe in which Mandela did die in prison. And somehow this is interacting with people's brain chemistry and thus creating memories that are not true, at least for our reality. It also reminds me of the video game, and I knew I would blank when I got to this point. The video game that was supposedly set out by the CIA or somebody else that existed only in a few little Seattle arcades or in that area in the Northwest when cabinet arcade games were big, that people began having altered perceptions from playing, and then they all disappeared. And it makes me wonder if either that's a memory that's leaked over from a Mandela effect variant universe, or if that's an actual object that, because it was close enough to something real in our world, it dropped into our universe. Because there's a story about the man from Tundra. A man traveling on a business jet arrives in a Japanese airport. They stamp his passport, or they look at his passport. They see it has been stamped many times before by basically the Japanese, version of border control, since they don't really have the kind of borders we have. They do it at the airport. And in this case, this man from Tondro, knew of Japan, was familiar with Japan, had traveled to Japan before, but they didn't recognize his passport. They compared it to other passports, and it matched none of them. He couldn't find his own country on a map of the world, much less explain why it looked different, why the map of Europe looked different to him, because he was, supposed to be European. Some people have said, okay, he could be a spy, but that's a terrible spy. For your passport not to match any known passport and to name a country that pretty much is obvious doesn't exist. This man allegedly was put in a room with guards on him because they were thinking he was a spy, and he vanished along with his luggage from inside a room that was locked, and didn't really have a window, apparently, that he could escape through with luggage. Um, but that's not the only stories of people who have fallen in or seemingly have fallen into our universe. Perchance, um, this is just, another urban legend that we have, like people disappearing, like Bigfoot. It's all a possibility. But what if all of that is tied to the Mandela effect variant, especially for superhero games? For superhero games or Wild and Wahoo post-apocalyptic games, or any games where you're dealing with multiple realities, like reality hopping games, because there are a few of those. A few that thought those were good ideas. Torg is more of a reality invasion. But what if there are these other universes that are so similar to ours that we cannot tell them apart until we see something that is definitely a major disconnect for us? And that disconnect is when we get back and see that the truth does not match our memory. And the reason I was thinking upon this, the Mandela effect variance, is it would be a useful term, especially in superhero games, to explain worlds that are slightly different than our own, but maybe have a moral switch where you have superhero bad guys. That is, in your universe, they're superheroes, but in the other universe, they're bad guys. Because there's a slight variance there, just an ever so slight variance on morality. And maybe some of their villains are good guys and they come over here and you team up and you take out the bad guy, or vice versa. But the idea is that these are similar universes, similar enough that they have some of the same people, same places, but they may also be strange enough to have a tundra that we don't have in existence. They may have other weird anomalies that we haven't even thought about or imagined. And maybe that's why people have memories of these things. I know somebody who dreamt of a 8 seasons of Knight Rider, and he mentioned it on a public chat. And he said after the first 4 seasons, because it ran apparently 4 seasons, they moved it to Germany and started shooting it in Germany, and it had this big major arcing plot for the very final season that he knows was a dream, but it felt real to him. Again, what if that's Mandela effect bleeding into our reality, into from a universe where there really were 8 seasons of Knight Rider? Another friend dreamt of a game that he imagined based on an old board game, but it was now a role-playing game. And he just posted that today, which is one reason I went ahead and did this video, because I'm about to run my Gamma World, which is not quite as wahoo and out there as the board. Well, not board, but I don't want to say that 4th edition was a board game. That's not really what I was thinking, but it comes in a big box like a board game, so my brain said board game. So forgive me for that. It is definitely a set-place battle game, and that's okay. Perfectly acceptable for what it was. But like their alternate reality, what if they're just some of them are Mandela effect variances? They're just slightly different from our own. They're just slightly different variations that you can use in campaign material. You could use it in fantasy games if you want to try something different, because that's not done. Alternate realities is not done. Alternate dimensions are done, but they are usually really strange. They're usually like the place where the gods come from, or the place where the devils come from, or the place where these strange, mind-eating monsters are from. But you could also have it be, this is just like our world, but there are a few slight weirdness things that just don't make sense. Maybe magic works different. Maybe, who knows? Maybe the rulers are different. Maybe the rules of certain interactions are different, social interactions. But the idea is Mandela effect variance is how far from our world is it. The higher the MEV or MVE, whichever way you want to do it, is from us, the farther away from us it is. So like a Mandela effect variant 20 is going to be very alien. It might have a tundra. You go farther than that, and you're no longer in Mandela effect variant universes. You're in universes that are so strange that you get things that don't look human, don't resemble humanity at all, don't fit with what we expect from human shape and human form, or, you get very alien processes because the rules that were created in the infinite universe theory is so big and strange and wide and wonderful that their rules just are different. They have different quantum mechanics entirely. So evolution works differently. So the forming of planets works differently. And it all boils down to what fun can you have with alternate reality in any game. It might be a very interesting idea to throw into an espionage game. Everything is the same, except there's actually an organization that you run into who will seek out people who had these Mandela effect variant experiences and they kidnap them and they try and scan their minds. They try and see if they're somehow psychic. Now, this is where it gets personal, and this is the finale of the video, is that sometimes when I'm half awake, I hear what sounds like a radio station coming from my fan. I have a fan that runs constantly to keep the air moving in my room because it doesn't have much good airflow on its own. It does not have very good airflow on its own, would be a better way of phrasing that. But the idea here is that what if in a half awake state, my brain's actually picking up radio signals from a Mandela effect universe? I know that it's a different universe because our seasons don't match up, or at least our musical seasons don't match up, because sometimes it'll be summer and they'll be playing Christmas music. It could just be my screwed up brain combining all the random sounds of outside, the fan, just into something that makes sense while I'm half asleep, or struggling to wake up, or struggling to go to sleep, or somewhere in there. It's half dream, and the half dream is creating the reality of it. But I do know that in that dream, it had too many call letters, which I thought, gee, why would it have that many call letters? That was just a weird, out there concept. But I was like, 5 call letters? They only have 4 normally, And it struck me, and that's what woke me up the rest of the way, was the fact that I dreamt of a radio station, or at least half awake. Did I pick up a Mandela effect variant universe? Is it possible? No, I don't care. It's not real. It's a hypothesis that might be possible because universes may be infinite. Our universe may be infinite. And then when you think about the fact that there might be next door other universes that are also infinite, we can't fathom just how deep the rabbit hole goes when you start getting to that point of imagining things. Now, do I think I'm crazy? No, because I realize if I turn off the fan, I don't have those kinds of dreams anymore. But I usually don't turn off the fan. And I'm not hearing things because I never hear or see things that aren't there other than when I'm half awake or half asleep. And that's just what sounds like a radio station playing music. And it has a fondness for things that go back further than the 60s, but it will also play modern rock. So it's completely out there in the weird way it handles its programming. It's a Mandela effect universe variant. But it's probably just my imagination putting together dreams. But think about it for your game. Think about what the possibility of having an MEV2 universe might be, or an MEV3 universe might be. My hypothesis is that this is possible. That's just a hypothesis. It's not even a theory. There's no math behind it. It's an imagining wild sky. This would be neat if it were true, but I can't actually put together data sets that prove that. We're just not misremembering things. because that's the simplest explanation. And this is not a Mandela effect variation. This is just a nosy dog who wants to know who I'm talking to. So I need to get back and get to my Gamma World game. I'm running late now because somebody was at the mall. Other things were happening. So excuse me. Peace. Good gaming. Say hello to Tesla. This is my Tesla. And say goodbye. Goodbye. Can you say goodbye?